Thank you for joining today's OncoKB webinar. We are thrilled that so many of you expressed interest to get to know OncoKB more. This is Hongxin Zhang. I'm the lead software engineer in the team. Today, we're going to talk about how to utilize OncoKB APIs to annotate your own cancer variants. OncoKB has a Twitter account, so if you haven't followed us yet, please do. Our handle is OncoKB. We'll tweet our latest data release. We'll also tweet some major feature release. We'll also have a low volume email list if you're interested. It's located under the news page. So you can feel free to sign up. We'll also send out the emails to you when there is a data release and the feature release. So if you have the questions during the webinar, please feel free to ask questions using the Q&A feature. This recording will be available on OncoKB About page. Currently, there's already a video recording about the full-length explanation how to use OncoKB. And even though today's webinar, we're gonna mainly focus on how to use the API, this video recording will be available over there in the next couple of days. If after the webinar you still have questions, please feel free to reach out to us at contact@oncokb.org. We also compiled a list of frequent asked questions. It's available in our oncokb.org/FAQ page. So today I'm mainly gonna talk about the following 6 points. I'm going to start to give a brief overview of OncoKB, especially for the users the first time join the call and haven't used OncoKB before. Then we're going to talk about what's the OncoKB license available to you. Then I'm going to give you a demo to walk you through the OncoKB registration and getting an API token, since it's very essential to get that before actually starting the following items, which a token is required. Then we're gonna dive into to show you how to use the OncoKB APIs through a Swagger page. Then with a few of the examples, of course. Then we're gonna I'm going to demo you how to use the OncoKB annotator, including installation and walking you through with examples. And yeah, like I said before, feel free to ask questions. We have other OncoKB members on the call, so they will answer your questions as fast as possible. At the last, I'm going to, if we have time, of course, I'm going to talk about how to integrate OncoKB in Civil Portal. All right. OncoKB is precision oncology knowledge base powered by clinical expertise of Memorial Sloan Kettering. It provides accurate and up-to-date information about biological and clinical implications of over 5,000 cancer gene alterations. The treatment information is also classified using the OncoKB levels evidence system, which assigns clinical actionability ranging from standard of care to investigational treatments. OncoKB, today, OncoKB contains information about 676 genes and more than 5,000 alterations and around 300 biomarker drug associations. Those associations are across 65 genes and 51 tumors. OncoKB is guided by a Clinical Genomic Annotation Committee, so-called CGAC, and MSK. So it consists of around 60 physicians and scientists who represent the broader MSK clinical leadership. They provide expertise on cancer variant interpretation and insight and updates regarding biomarker-based clinical data. And I personally believe CGAC is one of the reasons to make OncoKB the best of the precision oncology knowledge base out there. And I'm going to walk you through the OncoKB website to show you a few of the OncoKB website features. But like I mentioned earlier, this will be very brief. If you want to know more details about those features, please take a look at another recording available in the About page. Okay, so first, when you enter the OncoKB page, this is very similar to what we had in the previous slide. So all of the OncoKB data is sort of our categories with levels, and we'll also give summaries of the current data states. All of the clinical implications categories based on levels of evidence system range from left to the right, from sensitivity levels to resistant level. In the middle, there's a search bar. Feel free to search the gene alteration in the drug. For instance, if you search BRAF, so in the dropdown, it will show you all of the relevant items related to the BRAF. And this will take you to the gene page. And if you further want to know what's available for BRAF V600E, here it gives you a very brief information about the V600E. And if you click on it, it takes you to a vendor page. But what if you are interested in pembrolizumab, particularly for MSI information? So you can actually search the drug. It will also show you which gene, which alteration has been associated with this particular drug. For instance, if we click on here, it takes you to the MSI high page. In this page, it shows you what's the available clinical applications. Let's take one step back. Let's start from the gene page. Now I'm going to the gene page. From top to the bottom, we have the gene type, whether the gene is oncogene or tumor suppressor, and the highest level of evidence in this gene. We'll also provide the gene alias and also other gene information related to BRAF. They all hyperlink, so feel free to check out. We have a very brief gene summary sentence. I will show you why we trying to keep the summary short later. We also have a full list of the BRAF background showing here. So all of the PMID are listed here. So this will give you more details about the BRAF. On the right side, you're looking at a bar chart. It's a tumor type distribution across MSK Impact 2017 study. This bar chart is also fully interactable. So when you click on that, the following information will be updated. Now you're looking at a lollipop that it shows the alteration distribution for BRAF in the MSK study. So of course we see the V600 as the most frequently occurred alteration in this study. If you scroll to the bottom, they're looking at the two tabs. The clinical relevant alterations tab may not always available for all of the genes. It's only available if the gene has any clinical implications. It's very straightforward. It has the alteration associated, tumor type associated, of the drugs associated, and also, of course, the levels of evidence for this clinical implication. In the second tab, for the all annotated alterations, we show the oncogenicity and mutation effect, basically all of the biological information for this alteration. All right, so let's take another look about, if we want to know a little bit more about V600E, we go into the variant page. In the variant page is a very clear page. It doesn't really offer, it offers all of the necessary information, including the gene summary and also a variant summary. We also show the oncogenicity mutation effect on the top. So let's say you're looking at all of the clinical implications right here, but if you pay attention to those clinical implications, they all related to one particular tumor type. What if you are interested only to want to know what's the clinical implication relevant to melanoma? You could either search the tumor type here. You could click on the link here. It takes you to this page directly. So this table will automatically update it based on your tumor type selection. And you notice that the clinical implication table has been shortened because some of the clinical implications, they cannot be updated. They cannot be propagated to melanoma. And if you pay attention to the level column, the level 1 is very straightforward because that's FDA approved drugs. But what about the 3B? So that takes us to our levels evidence definition. Another reason OncoKB shines in the precision oncology database is because we have fine-tuned the levels of evidence ranging from sensitivity to resistant. We also aware that the AMP and OncoKB, they announce their own level of evidence. So we also create a mapping between them. If you can see, we have a perfect one-by-one alignment with their levels. The only thing they don't have is the resistance level, which we provide. So this is, I think across our experience, I think this is very useful. So please spend as much time as you want to take a look at the details about the levels of evidence, since it's very important for that all of downstream analysis. The last one I want to introduce is the actionable genes page. This is a fully interruptible page that lists all of the information with the levels. You could choose the gene, you could choose the tumor type. For instance, if we want to go back to the original, the examples we have earlier, you can select BRAF, you can select melanoma. Then you are looking at all of the information related to those criteria. Of course, you can toggle the different levels. Then that will actually also filter this table. All right. So these a few pages I want to highlight today. For the full overview of the other pages, please check out another recording which is available under the About page right here. And today's recording will be available here as well. All right. Let's go back. So next concept before we starting, I want to mention about the OncoTree. So OncoTree is the ontology we use within OncoKB team, also in Sybil Portal and MSK Impact cohort. So we're trying to keep our ontology in line together, so we will have a precise annotation. So we highly recommend you check out the OncoTree because the OncoTree, by now, you already has over 700 tumor types. And if you want to use OncoKB, oftentimes you have to map your tumor type to OncoTree codes. But the good things about OncoTree is that it provides a very standardized APIs. It has APIs to trace back from previous versions and search for tumor types. We also provide the maps to the NCI code and UMLS codes. So if you have those codes, they can be safely mapped to OncoTree code as well. The website is oncotree.mskcc.org. Feel free to check it out. All right, so today we're going to talk about OncoKB API. So what is the API to start with? So the API stands for Application Programming Interface. So it allows the applications, especially software applications, to communicate with each other. OncoKB has documentation to describe how to use OncoKB. The first one is the api.oncokb.org. This is a document powered by Gitbook that we wrote, try to describe how to use the OncoKB API in details, including the parameters, which one is required. For instance, the authentication is required. We'll get into that later. But also the parameters and descriptions, and also the field of examples you can use. I want to mention that right here, OncoKB also provide two separate instances. So first instance is the fully authenticated website. So registered users, registered accounts are required. But we also provide a demo.oncokb.org. It provides 3 genes with fully with all content. So before committing to our license, you can check out this website and get to know a little bit more about what we can offer about BRAF, TP53, and ROS1. So after knowing that, then you can consider to get one of the license from OncoKB. The second one is auto-generated by Swagger definition. So this is a pretty standard tool used by all of the REST API applications. In this page, we list all of the publicly available OncoKB APIs. Later on, I'm going to use this tab to guide you through a few examples. We'll come back to this page. But I highly recommend to also use a Swagger in your application, because it also helps you to automatically generate the clients, which makes it easier to make API calls. So OncoKB data is fully available programmatically through a high performance API. The curated, so on the left side, you can see we aggregated different data resources from FDA, NCCN, PubMed, clinicaltrials.gov, and then all of the MSK best practices. We save this data and separate them into different categories like gene annotation, variant levels, biological data, and the clinical actionabilities. We aggregate all of those information to OncoKB database. So once we have all of the data, how do we provide easier way for any application who wants to use OncoKB data? Then, so OncoKB comes up with the standard REST API definition. So by far, we have been using API for variant report, patient report, and all of the downstream annotation tools. So feel free to check out the APIs. Then I think it can be fully integrated into your pipeline as well. So these three applications are the main applications I want to quickly talk through. Of course, there are other applications OncoKB data has built on. But the three are the main applications. The first one I already demoed earlier, the public website. The second is CBAL portal integration. We integrate the OncoKB information currently in the results view and the patient view. For anyone who is not really familiar with CBAL portal, I'm going to give you a quick demo later on about CBAL portal as well. And the third application is the MSK Impact Patient Reports. I know lots of audience here are wondering how it's going to look like if we want to include OncoKB data in the patient report. See, this is an example how we show the OncoKB data. We include oncogenicity, the blue boost icon. It indicates whether the alteration is oncogenic or not. We'll also include the levels icon. So for instance, this is the 3A alteration. We list which alteration is related to the 3A, what drugs are available for this alteration, and there's a brief summaries about this clinical implication. And that's why I mentioned earlier, that's why we want to keep the gene summary short, is because we want to provide gene summary here as well. So this is a 3-sentence summary: gene summary, variant summary, and tumor type summary. It has been proven it's very sufficient and to be included in the patient report. And this information is fetched directly from OncoKB API. They don't further do further sort of data restructure. So this is another case to show you once you connect to the OncoKB API, I think it's production ready to be included in your patient report. So in order to use OncoKB API, there are 4 different license types out there. So for most of you, you probably use in the research. So for any research using an academic setting, it's free. So you can register there. And there are also another 3 options available for commercial entities, including research use in commercial setting, used for patient reports, or the healthcare setting using commercial reports. Commercial products. So the fee is varies based on different factors, but we usually measure the company size, intent of use of the data. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any question about those commercial license. We usually respond to you within the 24 hours during the business days for the license required. So once you have a license, then you can use the API to annotate your, using the OncoKB annotator to annotate your file. You can programmatically access OncoKB data via its web API. I'm gonna quickly show you how to do OncoKB registration and get an API token. All right, well, back to this page again. On the top right corner here, if you click the account, the 2 options. If you already have account, feel free to log in. So if you don't, then you click on the register. Those 4 buttons are exactly the 4 options I mentioned earlier. So for different license, there are a few different questions you need to fill out, but make sure that for research use in an academic setting, please check out the terms, make sure you are qualified to use this license. So once you register the account, then you can go to the login page. Then you can try to, this is my account. You can log in. Once you log in, on the top right corner, then go to the account settings. So then your API token will be available here. So there's a expiration date associated with this token. We'll do further renewal on your token in a half-year basis. All right, so this is where you'll get token. All right, let's go back to the slide. So this is the two main ways to access OncoKB data, and this is also two applications I'm going to guide you through today. The first one is the Swagger page, the one I showed earlier. The second is OncoKB annotator. It's used to annotate your map file. Essentially, it's just a topic delimited file. You can use that to quickly to attach OncoKB annotation into it. All right, so I'm gonna start with the Swagger page. All right, so let me, yeah, this view looks good. All right, so let's go to OncoKB website again. So how do you access the Swagger page? So first of all, make sure you already log in. Since OncoKB website requires full authentication, so you have to log in order to use that tool. But if you haven't, feel free to register right now. We have team members on the call that potentially will approve your account accordingly. Then if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's the API section here. If you click on it, it will take you to the Swagger page. All right. In the Swagger page, that like I said earlier, all of the public APIs available here. We're going to talk about the annotation endpoints. And there's, if you notice, there's a get and post methods. So for the get methods, we usually use that to annotate one alteration. Of course, if you have a batch alterations, you want to annotate it all together. So I probably suggest you use the post. So that's the most efficient way to annotate your data if you have a lot. All right, so on the right side, you're looking at the examples. So let's start with the first one, the porting change. All right, so this is the definition for all of the queries. We're gonna click on the try it out. So by click on that, this option is the editable again. The first one, you're gonna to put in the gene information. The gene, it could be either Hugo symbol, and it could be entries gene ID. Then you have to put in the alteration. You could, if you have the consequence and protein started in, feel free to put them in, but OncoKB is able to parse the information from the alteration. So if you don't have the information, that's totally okay. So let's start with the BREF, then alteration, necessary E. If we scroll down, there are two more, the tumor tab. The tumor tab, as I said, is OncoTree code. You could put a tumor tab right here, right now. I'll show you the difference, but usually I put the information here. So melanoma in OncoTree is MEL, the code. So this section accepts OncoTree name and both name the code. So feel free to use both of them. Right. I'm gonna remove that for now. The evidence tab is basically, if you know what you are doing, if you know what information you're looking for to improve the performance of OncoKB, you can put that different evidence here. But I think until now, I think OncoKB performance is good enough to, without specify the evidence type. If it's not good enough, we're also in the process of making it faster. All right, now we have BREF accessory E. Let's click on the execute button. In the execute button, you see we got a response from OncoKB. So what happens if you don't have a token, right? So for instance, I'm in incognito mode, I'm not logged in, and I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm putting the BREF, putting the V600E. So if I click on execute, you wouldn't get information. It is a 401. It says a full authentication is required. Okay, so you have to log in first. All right, so let's check out this response quickly. So all of the annotation endpoints, they all return the same response. So we just need to go through one time to understand the response, so you can use that all of the response for the rest of the annotation endpoints. I'm gonna use one of the JSON viewer, so it will be easier to take a look at it. All right, so let's start from the top to the bottom. I will go through the response. So first one is the query. So this is the query you put it in earlier, which I put it in earlier, is the bref necessary E. Then gene exists tells you whether bref has been annotated before. Variant exists tells you whether OncoKB has annotated necessary E. Allele exists tells you whether there's any alternative alleles at this position curated by OncoKB team. For the oncogenic, it's oncogenicity, either oncogenic, like oncogenic, like neutral, and unknown, or inconclusive. Same goes to the mutation effect. We have the citations for that, particularly in the abstracts, if it's available. Then there's a summary about the highest level for BRAF necessary E. In this case, it's level 1 alteration. Scroll down, let's go here. The hotspot is defined based on Matthew Chang's paper, which is available at cancerhotspot.org. Feel free to check it out. To tell you whether this alteration is a hotspot, we provide the gene summary and the variant summary. Since we don't have a tumor type in this case, so the tumor type summary is empty. Let's come to the treatment section. So the treatment section gives you the full list of the treatments for BRAF V600E, but since there's no tumor type specified, so all of the treatments are not particularly for one particular tumor type. But in the response, it will tell you which alteration it's assigned to. So potentially right here, it could be oncogenic mutation. So oncogenic mutation is a phrase we created within the team it's a catch-all phrase to use for all of the oncogenic mutations, including oncogenic, likely oncogenic, and predict oncogenic. So any alteration which is oncogenic mutations, so this treatment will be included. So that's why you should use OncoKB API instead of OncoKB download file, because there are some untrivial logics embedded in the API. So the download files cannot provide the insights. So that's why that's also the reason we took down the data download, because we realized that oftentimes that leads to inaccurate analysis. So this is the drug section. So in the drug, you notice this is an array. So for each treatment, it could be a combination therapy. So right here in this case, it only has one drug. So this one drug has the drug name, the symptoms, and the NCIT code. So if you have other conversion, you can convert it to European standard, etc. With this NCIT code, you feel free to do that. And if you scroll down, then it tells you which level this is, and what's the associated cancer type for this treatment. In this case, it's a melanoma. You can ignore the approved indication section because this is used when we first started the project. But since approved indication usually represents FDA approval, so that usually represents by the level 1. So we think we're going to deprecate this field very soon. That also provides the PMIDs, abstracts, and the description if available for this treatment. Then if you scroll down a little bit more, you can see this treatment, it has 2 drugs. So this is combination therapy. So it has to be a dabrafenib and trametinib combination therapy. All right. Okay, so we also provide the data version, the last update for this API calls. So the data version corresponding to OncoKB news page. We have a data version attached to the release date. So that's where you'll get the information. The VUS is the field to tell you in OncoKB team, in OncoKB database, whether we flag it as a VUS. Of course, the V600E is not a VUS, but there are lots of alterations we took a look, but there's no important information yet, so we mark it as a VUS. All right. So this is the main response from the annotation endpoint. So make sure you understand this data structure. And important to highlight, you can also see we started to expose the diagnostic and prognostic implications, including the levels, summaries, and implications. They all empty at the moment, but we are in the process to get those diagnostic and prognostic information into the system. So it should come out very soon. All right, so let's go back to the Swagger page. Let's go to the second example, the genomic change. Worth to mention, so if you have a genomic change, you can start to use this endpoint. So this endpoint is powered by Genome Nexus. Genome Nexus help us to parse this genomic location to a protein level. But notice that here we only support GRCH37. We are also in the process to support the GRCH38. So make sure you sort of register in our email account or on the Twitter. So we'll let you know once that's supported. Okay, so let's copy over that to the genomic location. Tumor type, let's stick with melanoma. If you click on the execute, right here. So if you look at the query, zoom in a little. If you look at the query now, instead of showing the genomic location, it already tells you this is a query about BRAF V600E melanoma. The consequence protein start and protein end already be calculated. So this is all powered by Genome Nexus. So if you haven't heard of Genome Nexus, please check it out. It's genomenexus.org. So this is basically a tool we use to annotate the genomic locations. So the response will be exactly the same thing as we did in the previous example. So I'm not going to go through that. The next one is the HGVSG. HGVSG format, we strongly follow, we follow the standard from HGVS website. If you haven't heard of this standard, please check it out. We follow that standard. Also, this tool is powered by Genome Nexus. Genome Nexus help us to convert the protein HGVSG to that. Let's do a quick example here, execute. So if you look at the query again, now it's also BRAF V600E. All right, so next one, copy number alterations. Copy number alteration, this endpoint is help you to annotate your copy number alterations, like the name states. The parameters are very straightforward. So you're required to put in the gene name, the gene information, and what's the copy number alteration type. So let's check it out. So we still do, in this case, we do MAT amplification. Then you can choose some amplification, deletion, gain and loss. So those are particularly tailored for different alteration type. Then we do a melanoma as well, execute. So if you scroll down, then it tells you this is a level 3B because the treatment is curated for prostate cancer, I believe. Oh no, sorry. This is curated for renal cell carcinoma, and because we acquired melanoma, so this is the 3B implications. All right. So this is for a copy number alteration. The last one for this section here is the structural variant. The structural variant, if you're familiar with the structural variant, there are two genes required to fill in. You could choose either Hugo symbol or interest. We use A and B here. In example, we use a BCR-ABL. You could put BCR here or here, either way. It doesn't matter for us. BCR APOL1. Then we want to take a look at the fusion. Of course, it's a functional fusion. Then let's do CML. If you execute it, so it will tell you, okay, so this fusion is oncogenic. It's gain function. They also have level 1 association. So this is how you specify a fusion, right? So you provide the two gene pairs, you provide the gene pair and specify the structural variant type. So what if we are looking for intergenic alteration? So intergenic alteration basically is the same gene. So we're gonna use the ATM as an example because we saw ATM intergenic before. And you have to specify both of them in this section. Then because it's a deletion event, right? So you're gonna choose the deletion. And this is not technically a fusion event. So we're gonna click on that. We're gonna use let's use the colon adenocarcinoma as an example. So, okay, if you scroll down, already tells oncogenicity, mutation effect, also 3B treatment because the treatment is curative for a prostate cancer. So for the colon adenocarcinoma is the 3B. Okay, great. So that means it's actually working. Okay, so last section of examples. So it's the special variant. So I know some of you are interested to know how to annotate the MSI tumor mutation burden and EGFRV3. So you could use the protein change endpoint. So instead in this alteration section for EGFRV3, it's very straightforward, right? You're gonna just put the EGFR and you're gonna do V3, then execute, then you will get the information, right? Here, see that. So what about it's an MSI tumor mutation burden? So it will be it's kind of on the other biomarker. So you're gonna put in about other biomarkers of Hugo symbol. We also have a -2 to represent other biomarkers, and as you know, any negative numbers for the interest gene ID doesn't exist. So we use -2 to represent the other biomarker. Then of course you're gonna here put an MSA high. You can fully spell it, or you can use the short name. If you execute it, then you'll see this as an oncogenic, and this is the level 1 because we have pembro. What's the name again? Sorry. We have Vilumab for MSA high for the level 1. We also have pembrolizumab for the level 1 as well. So same thing goes to mutation burden. Execute that. So it tells you it's an oncogenic event. Unfortunately, there's no implications yet. But based on the recent FDA approval, I think this will soon get information here. So we'll get back to you when that implication is included. All right, so that's all for this section. So that's all I want to show you here. So if you have more questions about this Swagger page, please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A section. So next one, I'm gonna guide you through how to use the OncoKB annotator, right? So OncoKB annotator is available under the GitHub. So let's go to the GitHub. So first thing, you have to understand what OncoKB annotator is. Because short of the time, I'm gonna skip that, and also I gave a very brief introduction earlier. So what are we gonna do is, first of all, how to run this script, right? So first of all, you need to clone this repository, right? Go here and click on this button to click the link. Then let's open one of the terminals. Great. So let's go to the download folder. Let's make a directory. Right? Let's go there and then let's do a git clone. So by doing that, you will clone local copy of the OncoKB annotator. Then let's go there. first thing first, so you have to install the dependencies. So the dependencies actually already included in the requirements.txt. So if we take a quick look at it, that. All right, so OncoKB annotator supports both Python 2.7 and Python 3, but since 2.7 has been deprecated, so today let's focus on the Python 3, okay? But you can still install, if you have 2.3, you can still use it. And actually the default is for Python 2. Today I'm going to focus on the 3, then let's modify the requirement file a little bit very quickly. Let's comment this out. Let's enable this. Okay, great. So then next thing, you need to make sure you have the pip ready. So since the version 3, we use the pip 3. The install before, so I know the command already. So that it's going to be pip3 install -r with the requirements text file. So once you have the script, the pip3 will automatically install all of the dependencies for this project, right? So do that, we quickly install everything. That's all, it's very quick. All right, so that's all you have to do for the dependencies. So next step, we're gonna modify this example script. First of all, let's take a quick look at the example script. On the top here, so it defines where the example files, the math file, fusion, copy number, clinical data, and what's the output file name. So by defining those, I'll show the annotated files, but this is basically where you define the naming. There's only one thing you need to modify is here, is the token. So the token is what I showed you earlier. So you have to have the OncoKB token in order to run the OncoKB data. So we're gonna copy over that token, paste it here. Then that's all. That's all you wanna do. That's all you need to do to run the example script. And we'll get back to the one of the examples later. Let's take a quick look at how to run the script. Then you just need to do sh example files. Then it starts to annotate. All right, done. So once we've done that, let's go to the download file. Let's take a quick look at it. So in this data folder, previously we have those files as input, right? Let's go back to the annotation. Sorry, let's take another look at the example script. As a math file annotator as an example, so there's input math file as input. This is output for the math file name. We also input a clinical data as input. This is not required, but if you want to have the clinical implications annotated correctly, I highly recommend to have the clinical data ready. Here is where you specify your token. And another way to look at it is through the help document of each annotator. So I'm doing Python math annotator, doing -h it will explain to you all of the required parameters in this file. So those are required columns. So what's the required parameters, etc. So feel free to take a look at it over there. All right, so let's take a quick look at the annotated file. Right, so those are annotated files. I'm going to just go through the math file and the fusion, the math file and the clinical file, because for CNN and fusion, they are very similar. For the math file, so prior to here, prior to those 4 columns are coming from my original file. So make sure you have your gene, make sure you have your Hugo symbol, make sure you have your alteration, in this case, a protein change. Then for the rest of the columns, they populated by OncoKB information. That includes gene, variant, whether it exists in OncoKB, mutation effect, oncogenic, then also what's the available treatments for that, and the highest level, and the citations. Please note that because when I run this my file, I have a clinical file as input. You don't have to have it, but if you want to have clinical data and the math file is the only file you have, you could simply include the OncoTree code as a column in the original file, so that clinical data will be annotated correctly. So the clinical data file is basically a file that with annotations that mainly focus on the sample ID. So if you want to get into this step to make sure every row in your math file you have a sample ID associated, so the clinical data will build the connection between all of them. So this will give you a very nice summary about all of the data. So that's also how this PDF file is annotated. So this is gives you an overview what's the sort of the actionability across all of the samples you have. Of course, the more data you have, the more detailed the graph you get as well. Also, a README is generated to tell you when is the file annotated, which APIs are used, and a data version and release date. All right, great. I think that's all I'm going to want to show you today for OncoKB Annotator. Feel free to ask any questions. I'm going to go ahead to go to the last point about CBL portal. So for some of the audience here, you may already have a CBL portal installation. CBL portal since version 3.2.3, it no longer requires a token to be used to use OncoKB. But one step back, so what is the CBL portal? The CBL portal is also a software website tool that help you to analyze your genomic data. So it provides a lot of sort of the graphs and the different ways to organize the data and allow you to do analysis to cross different studies. So then OncoKB comes into play in a role that to help you to understand a little bit more about your genomic data. So for instance, in this case, if you have EGFR T790M, so what's available for what's the treatments available for this case? If you have a patient, you're not really familiar with the latest FDA approval, so this is where you can take a look at it. So by combining both of them, then we will come up with even smarter applications for cancer genomic analysis. So in the latest CBL portal installation, OncoKB token is not required, but however, that in instance, it only includes biological data. So if you look at this screenshot here, it only shows you the gene summary and variant summary and the oncogenicity and mutation effect. However, if you configure your CBL portal instance with our token, of course, it provides more information, including what's a summary for the for this particular patient for this particular alteration, and what's the treatments available for this patient. So you can see the difference is quite a lot, but I think for any applications that you think biological data is sufficient enough, go ahead, feel free to deploy CBL portal, and I think everything is Dockerized, is very easy to deploy. Then OncoKB comes with that. If you have more, I want to know more about the clinical data, please register. If you are a commercial entity, please reach out to us. We'll discuss further about those information. So there's also a documentation on how to configure CBL portal with OncoKB data. So if you click on it, it's under the docs at cblportal.org. Search OncoKB, it pulls up this document right away. So like I said earlier, you don't have to do anything in order to use OncoKB. But if you have a token already, there are two places you have to modify. First of all, you need to make sure your token is specified in the portal properties file. Second, you need to change the public API URL to our main website. Then that's all. That's really all you'll need to do. And make sure the show OncoKB is set to true. It's default, just in case someone turned it off, for instance, make sure that's true as well. Yeah, that's really all you need to do for to include OncoKB in Cibao portal. And feel free to reach out to us if you run into any questions. You can send us some questions to contact at oncokb.org, or you can also send a question to Cibao portal user group. All right, so that brings us to last two slides. So if you use OncoKB for academic purpose, if you use that for OncoKB data for your publication purpose, please cite OncoKB in your publication. It's a Chakravarti, like always, JCO PO 2017. You can get a link at our footer on our website right here. Here are a list of the resources. I think it's very useful if you have more questions about OncoKB, how to access OncoKB, how do we update the data, what's the level. We also provide very detailed standard operating procedure. So if you have any questions, how our level is defined, how the oncogenicity is defined, feel free to check it out. All right, so that's all I have for today. So if you have any questions, feel free to send it that in the Q&A section.
Yeah, thanks, Hongxing. That was great. So for everyone, if you have any questions, please send it through QA. Right now, I don't see any open questions. So we do have one actually in chat. Someone asked, so basically the API request for fusion is set an option as functional fusion. What does it mean?
Right. So so when you have the two gene structural variants, it doesn't really necessarily cause a fusion event. Maybe JJ, if you want to elaborate more on that.
Yeah, so I think that's basically we have trouble sometimes to understand, whether a structural variant event will actually generate a functional fusion. And in certain cases, for example, it can be out of frame, or it can be, it may not be actually functional in terms of like it will generate a gene fusion that generate a protein. So that's why it's important, if you know it's actually a functional one, you actually specify in that field. But I believe, Hongxing, if I remember correctly, you don't have to actually specify it, right?
Right. I think the default is true.
Okay.
There are two open questions, I believe from the same attendee. The first is API responses doesn't bring the cosmic ID. Am I doing something wrong, or is it not included?
The cosmic ID, we are not included that information.
Okay, great. And then the second question is, are there any plans to integrate the clinical trials?
Right. So we have the two parallel plans for the clinical trials. One is to use some algorithm to provide clinical trials by matching OncoKB drugs. So that's actually very close now. So we are planning to release that in the Cibao portal as well. So since the Cibao portal provides a lot of the genomic data, I think the first step will try to integrate into the Cibao portal. But that mainly is matched by based on OncoKB drug. The second plan we have right now is also curate the precision medicine trials. It has been proven it's a very complicated process. We were trying to make it more sort of automatic, but due to certain restrictions that we cannot do that yet. But we are in the process of curating those precision medicine trials.
So we don't see any more questions, but I think, so that's one actually question I would like to address, which is, we see a lot of confusion in terms of signing up licenses from hospital employees. So the question is really, if I work in a hospital, should I choose the hospital license or academic license?
Right. Yeah. So for anyone in the hospital, but if you do academic research, please feel free to fill in the academic license. But if you're in a clinical department that you're trying to include OncoKB data in your patient report, whether internally or externally, then you should reach out to us for a hospital license, because we do have separate license for patient report annotation.
So another question, so you demoed the OncoKB token to be used in private CBAR portal. Do I need an OncoKB token to use the public CBAR portal for treatment data?
Right. So whether you can use OncoKB treatment data, it's irrelevant to whether it's public or private CBAR portal. So as long as you want to use the clinical data from OncoKB, you have to register an account for that purpose. But like I said earlier, but if you're only interested in the biological data, including clinical information, including oncogenicity, mutation effect, and gene summary, then the token is not required.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that for if you use the CBAR portal public website, that you can the treatment data is already included, so you don't have to actually get a token.
Right. So for the public CBAR portal, we already have a deal with the CBAR portal team to provide the information on the public portal.
Okay, so it looks like there's no more questions, so I think we can end it here.
Okay, great.
So,
Thanks again for joining today's webinar. Feel free to reach out to us. I'm happy to have more webinars going forward if you have particular topics you're interested in. Yeah, stay safe, stay connected. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.